The laughter was the first knife. Cut through the room like glass cracking under pressure. I stood in the middle of the dining hall, surrounded by cousins, aunts and uncles, holding a half-empty glass of water as my mother's words echoed against the chandelier. "She's always been a disappointment," she said, smiling sweetly at the crowd. "Even as a child, she'd ruin every special occasion. I suppose nothing's changed." A wave of awkward chuckles followed. My throat went dry. My fingers trembled as I set the glass down before I dropped it. Every pair of eyes was on me, waiting for my reaction, waiting to see if the family embarrassment would cry again. I forced a smile. "I'm glad to know I'm consistent," I said quietly, but my voice cracked on the last word. Mother grinned wider, pleased with herself. "Oh, darling, don't be so sensitive. It's just a joke." But it wasn't. Never was. For 30 years, she'd wrapped her cruelty in silk and called it humor. The perfect host, the loving mother, the woman everyone adored. And I'd been the quiet daughter who kept secrets no one wanted to hear. As the evening went on, I kept my composure. I laughed when everyone else laughed, clinked glasses, and smiled through the fire building in my chest. But inside, a storm raged. Something about tonight felt different. My mother had always humiliated me in private, but now she'd chosen an audience. And in that moment, I made a silent promise. This would be the last time. After dinner, I slipped away into the kitchen to breathe. The marble counter was cold under my palms. My reflection in the window stared back, eyes red, jaw tight. Then I heard them. My mother's voice drifted in from the hallway, hushed and intimate. "He's just not ready to tell her yet," she said softly. Another voice replied, low, masculine. "My stepfather, Richard. She deserves to know eventually," he said. "We can't keep this up forever." My heart began to pound. What couldn't they keep up? I pressed closer to the doorway, the tile cool beneath my bare feet. Mother's voice softened further. "You worry too much. She's fragile. She's always been fragile. If she finds out, she'll crumble." Froze. "Find out what?" Richard sighed. "You mean if she finds out the truth about her father?" My lungs stopped working. The truth about my father. Mother's tone sharpened. "Don't start this again. He was never her real father. You know that. You were there." A buzzing filled my ears. The edges of the world blurred. I pressed a hand to my mouth to stop the sound that wanted to escape. Richard was there. It couldn't mean what I thought it meant. My body moved before my mind could stop it. I stepped into the hall. They turned startled. My mother's face drained of color for the first time I could remember. "What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice trembling but loud enough to slice through the air. No one spoke. "Say it," I demanded. Mother recovered first. "You shouldn't be listening to private conversations." "Say it." Richard lowered his gaze. "You weren't supposed to hear that," he said quietly. My heart raced, tears burning at the corners of my eyes. "So it's true." Mother folded her arms. "It's complicated." "Then simplify it." She sighed, exasperated. "Fine. Your father, the man you think raised you, wasn't your biological father. He was sterile. He couldn't give me what I wanted. So I made a choice." I stared at her, the words sinking like stones into water. "What choice?" Richard stepped forward. His expression was full of guilt. "I was your mother's friend. Her confidant. It happened once, years before she married your father. She didn't think you'd ever need to know." The world tilted. "You're saying," I whispered. "You're saying you're my father." He nodded slowly. My knees nearly buckled. The man I'd called my stepfather since I was 8 was my biological father. The man my mother had ridiculed me in front of all night. Mother's expression hardened, as if she was the victim. "It's not as terrible as you're making it sound. We did what we had to do. I wanted a child, and your father couldn't give me one. Richard was a good man. We handled it privately, with dignity." "Dignity?" I laughed bitterly. You humiliated me for years, treated me like a mistake, and you talk about dignity? Don't you dare take that tone with me, she snapped. You should be grateful. You wouldn't even exist if not for me. Richard reached out, but I stepped back. His touch burned. I couldn't breathe. The walls seemed to close in. The portraits on the wall, all those family photos, mocked me. Smiling faces. Perfect lies. You told me my father was weak, I whispered. You made me hate him. He was weak, she said coldly. He couldn't even give me a proper family. I turned away before I said something unforgivable. My heart felt like it had shattered into 1,000 sharp pieces. I left the house that night without looking back. 3 weeks later, I stood outside my mother's mansion again, this time with a folder in my hand. DNA results. Richard had confessed everything after that night. He'd begged me to forgive him, told me he wanted to know me to make things right. But forgiveness felt impossible. Not yet. I'd also discovered something else. My mother had kept letters from my late father, real father, the man who raised me, hidden in a box in her closet. Letters he wrote during his final years, begging her to stop poisoning me against him. He knew everything. He'd known I wasn't biologically his, and he'd loved me anyway. And she'd mocked him for it. When she opened the door, her face was expressionless. What are you doing here? I came to give you this, I said, handing her the folder. She took it, frowning as she flipped through the papers. Her face paled as she read the results. Why did you do this? Because I needed proof, I said quietly. Not for me. For him. For who? My father, I said. The man who raised me. The one you destroyed just to keep your image clean. Her eyes filled with something I'd never seen before. Fear. I stepped closer. You called me the family embarrassment. But the truth is, you've been living in shame your whole life. You just learned how to hide it better. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. For once, the queen of manipulation had nothing to say. I turned to leave. Where will you go? She asked weakly. Anywhere that isn't you, I said. The wind outside felt like freedom. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel broken. I felt reborn in the truth. And as the door shut behind me, I knew the cycle of her cruelty ended tonight.